Alright, so good morning, afternoon, or evening. I go by the name of Solo. Welcome to Solo Driven. Just real quick for people who are new on here, this isn't my normal or typical content. If you're looking for my normal or typical content, stay tuned next week where we get to the more exciting, exhilarating stuff. I just wanted to come on here real quick because as most of you may know that the 2024 Shelby American it's not a GT 500. Super Snake, Super Snake was just released not that long ago, and my god, what an incredible car. It's everything that I was hoping it was gonna be and more. I mean, the car looks completely incredible, from the carbon fiber wing to the vented functional fenders, the hood, the front bumper, the magnesium wheels. 830 plus horsepower from the factory with a Whipple Gen 3 supercharger. What more can you ask for, right? Like, it's an incredible looking car, the best looking Mustang as of yet. And this is why it may be a flop. So I first want to start off saying that this is not by any means a stretch of the imagination to be negative or discredit anyone that has put tons of hours and hard work in designing and creating this beautiful car. So shout out to everyone at Shelby American who put in an immense amount of hours making such an incredible looking car. So I want to say that because not a lot of people do that nowadays. They just want to, yap their mouth and just get straight to the negativity, not really considering all the hard work and time and consideration in producing a vehicle. So yeah, just take my opinion about what I'm about to say more so as like a constructive criticism. And by the way, I am no means a professional at any of this stuff, and I do consider that running a business requires a lot of thought. So I just wanted to get that out there before anyone perceives this video as me being negative. So let's get straight into it. So this car, in my opinion, may be a flop because of one key factor, and that is pricing. If you haven't watched the video where I made my predictions about the car before it came out, check it out right here. But in that video, I predicted that the car was gonna be about 150K. For me, that is top dollar. That's the most that I personally would pay for the car, even though I have a feeling it's gonna go for much higher than that. There are rumors that are showing that this car is probably gonna start at 170K, which in my opinion is just way too much for a Mustang. And this is why. So if y'all heard the specs on the car, it's coming with 830 plus horsepower straight from the factory. It's gonna be a 5.0 motor paired with a Gen 3 Whipple supercharger. So let me repeat that again. A 5.0 motor with a Whipple supercharger. These cars are essentially 5.0 motors that Shelby American really juiced up. That is not to take away from the fact that 5.0 motors are very capable motors. You can get them up to 800 horsepower pretty quick, and that is pretty impressive. But at the same time, the heart of the new Shelby Super Snake is a GT. The interior, I didn't really care too much about. The seats in particular. The seats are just regular seats, and I think that if they went all the way to that extent, they should have, just put some cool racing seats in there. Now I know that cost plays a big factor in the decisions that they make for these cars, so I'm sure they made it because it was cutting costs significantly. Seats can range up to $1,200 plus easily for a pair, or maybe even each. I think maybe each, I don't know. So I can understand why they made that move, but it really, in my opinion, it really would have made the car that much better if they had some cool seats to go along with it, especially if you're gonna be paying that money. Some people may not have an issue with the seats, but for me, for my taste, for my preference, I would have liked some nice bucket seats in there. Another thing that I was like, I can't believe that this is on here, was the steering wheel, the horse and the steering wheel. Like they created such a cool logo with the snake, it has those exaggerated fangs that look so aggressive. And here you have a pony on the steering wheel. Like, that is one thing that you're gonna be looking at when you're driving that car, that's gonna make you feel like you're in something different. Or aside from the horsepower, we're talking about just aesthetics here, is the steering wheel. I think that if it would have came with a snake, that would have been buonissimo. I should kind of make that more American. That would be badass. So that was one move I didn't really agree with, and I think it would have really just added that extra touch, and it would have went a long way if they would have put a snake on the steering wheel to make you feel like you're in something different. So with that being said, you have the heart of a GT, the steering wheel of a GT, the seats of a GT, but the outside looks like something you've never seen before. So I think that those were like little key mistakes that, again, I do understand why they probably went with those moves, but I think they should have just invested in that, especially if you're gonna be asking for 150K and above. So yeah, if they're gonna be going with a price range of 170K or greater, that's just a big letdown. Now I know that these cars are really meant to be more like exclusive cars, limited production, super limited production at that. At that price range, I don't know if people, or I don't know when the cap is gonna be, when people are gonna start to think that this is just way too much for a Mustang. Now what you get out of that price range with a Mustang is very, very reasonable because you're getting a good bang for your buck. But at that price range, I think that a lot of people will start to steer away from maybe what some may consider a typical car that you would see out in the street versus something exotic that you really don't ever see out in the street, and it just kind of has a history of being rare, being something that you don't really see too often out in the street that rich people own. So I think that's the part that's kind of, there's gonna be a cap or a limit where people are not gonna wanna pay X amount of dollars for a Mustang versus a supercar or an exotic car. Especially since they look drastically different, you know, it being a mid-engine car versus a front-engine car. Performance, on the other hand, depending on, you know, what vehicles you're comparing it to, may vary. So I don't know, that's just my 2 cents. Incredible looking car. I couldn't be more happier with the way it looks. Every little detail that they added with the headlights, you know, the little vents on there. They even went to the extent of adding like a little flare on the quarter panel and all that, making them wider, adding like just little details that I truly appreciate. My opinion, they missed a couple things as far as their interior and the things that I mentioned, but still nonetheless a beautiful car, well done with the design. And I can kind of see why they just went ahead and jumped the gun and made all these moves instead of waiting for Ford, because Ford with the last Shelby GT500 took 4 years to come out. 4 years when they released the S550 platform. That's how long it took for them to come out with the Shelby GT500. For whatever reason, I'm sure it's good, but it's just way too long for the consumer. The hype and excitement after 4 years, it dies down a lot. I think that that's why Shelby just went ahead and threw something that they could as quickly as possible. And with that being considered, they did an amazing job. So yeah, I don't know. Those are my opinions on why I think that this car may not do well, because at that price range you're really only shooting and gonna attract certain type of customers, and that's really customers that have throwaway money to spend 170K plus for a Mustang. Now 150K and under is more reasonable. I think that that's fair. For those that may be thinking like, well, what about the GTD? That Mustang is on a completely different level. That is a true supercar Mustang, which has never been done before. And that's why I believe that a lot of people that grab and are able to get the GTD are gonna keep them in the garage, hidden away from everyone with dust collected on them until they appreciate very rapidly, very quickly to sell in the near future, which to me is a very good investment if you are a car collector. So that's 2 different levels in cars, and Mustangs specifically. But yeah, those are my 2 cents. Again, this is not my typical content. I just want to hop on here and just kind of share some thoughts on that. And I had to do it in my garage because I'm kind of restructuring this whole thing, kind of making it more of a studio vibe. So I'm pretty excited about that stuff. Stay tuned next week for my usual kind of content that I put out. If you enjoyed today's video, you know exactly what to do. And remember, be motivated, stay driven.